Hello again, my fellow pilots and my fellow aircraft maintenance personnel. Your host is always Haitham Ali, and I'm an aviation technical instructor. Welcome to the second part of the brake system cross connection. In the previous part, everybody, or brake system cross connection part 1, we speak about the problems that may happen to the Airbus A320 aircraft on the level of the brake system cross connection. And we say that pilot may suffer from an unwanted tendency and the bad deceleration during landing after flare if the maintenance people do an error of a cross connection at the level of tachometer or at the level of servo valve. In part 1, everybody, we speak about the problem and we speak about the two types of the problem: cross connection at level of tachometer and the cross connection at the level of servo valve. Okay, so in this part 2, we will examine the mitigation, maintenance recommendation, operation mitigation, and operation procedure for my fellow pilots and my fellow aircraft maintenance personnel. So before I will start, I need to tell you again that the three main components of the anti-skid system is the tachometer, electro-hydraulic servo valve, sorry everybody, tachometer, electro-hydraulic servo valve, and the braking steering control unit. And the braking steering control unit, everybody. Okay, these three components must be connected properly. Otherwise, if there is a cross connection on the cable or wire that connects the tachometer with the servo valve and to the BSCU, a problem may happen that the skid wheel will send a signal to the BSCU, and in that case, due to cross connection, the BSCU will release the brakes on the other wheel, not on the existing skidding wheel. Okay, everybody? And the skidding problem may arise, unwanted yaw tendency to the pilot, bad deceleration after landing to the pilot, and this event happened many times, reported to Airbus, and the bad scenario or the bad event was that the aircraft stopped 150 meters after the runway finish. Okay, everybody? Okay. So, at the last part, or at part number 1, we examine the cross connection at the level of servo valve. This is the electro-hydraulic servo valve located on the shock absorber, landing gear shock absorber or shock strut. And thanks here to the support flange, if the maintenance people mistakenly connected this wire to the upper servo valve, which must be connected to the lower one, a sharp bend will be indicated here to the maintenance people to say that there is a problem here, you need to take care. There is a problem here, you need to take care and properly connect the wire with the dedicated servo valve and properly connect the wire to the dedicated servo valve. Okay, everybody? Okay. So let's continue. So, this is the existing measure on the single aisle aircraft family. And from here we can know the three components of the anti-skid system, which is the braking steering control unit BSCU, the servo valve, which is an electro-hydraulic servo valve. We have servo valve for each brake unit. And we have servo valve for normal brake and for alternate brake. So each wheel has its own servo valve, normal servo valve, and alternate servo valve, Okay, so again, the three main components of the anti-skid system, is the braking and the steering control unit, BSCU, the servo valve, and the tachometer on the wheel. And if you need to examine or say what is the function of the anti-skid, the tachometer measures its wheel speed and sends this RPM or rotational speed of the wheel to the BSCU, where the BSCU compare it with an aircraft reference speed calculated by the ADRU, and a comparison happen if the wheel not rotating or if there is a big difference between the wheel speed and the reference speed. So this is an indication that this wheel is skid. So in that case, the BSCU will release the brake on that wheel. Okay, everybody? So as you can see here, BSCU, servo valve, and the tachometer are the key component of the braking system or the anti-skid system. They increase or enhance the performance of the braking. So they must be properly connected to ensure efficient braking. And the function of the anti-skid is that the BSCU compare each wheel speed by the tachometer, thanks to the tachometer, to a computed reference speed calculated by the ADRU, Air Data Inertial Reference Unit, and release associated brake pressure if need be. Okay, everybody. So let's go back and see this relation between the BSCU. You see here, this is the BSCU, Braking Steering Control Unit, has a dedicated channel to the left hand outboard wheel and the left hand inboard wheel. So the connection to the left hand outboard wheel must be properly connected to the left hand servo valve, outboard servo valve, and the left hand outboard wheel tachometer. And also the left hand inboard wheel channel in the BSCU must be properly connected to the left hand inboard wheel servo valve and the left hand inboard wheel tachometer. If a cross connection happen at the level of servo valve, it is a problem. Or if a cross connection happen at the level of tachometer, there will be a problem. What problem may arise in that case? You as a pilot will be indicated by an unwanted yaw tendency after landing and a very bad deceleration rate. If you as a pilot suffer from unwanted yaw tendency or a bad deceleration after landing, you suspect a cross connection problem, and you must do the loss of braking memory item. You must start with the loss of braking memory item. And you as a maintenance personnel, how you can suspect a cross connection? By a flat spot on a wheel. Because in a case of a cross connection, everybody, suppose the outboard wheel is skid, it will send a signal, okay, to the BSCU wrong channel. So the BSCU will not release the brake pressure here, but will release the brake pressure on the other wheel due to the cross connection. So the skidding wheel will still exist. So a flat spot may arise. Okay, a flat spot, maybe this wheel suffer from a blown tire. Okay, everybody? Okay, so you again as a maintenance people, if you suspect or if you found a flat spot, this is an indication to a cross connection. Here is the cross connection at the level of servo valve, everybody, at the level of servo valve. Okay, so let's continue with the existing measure on the single aisle aircraft family. So you as a pilot in that case, if you suffer from a bad deceleration or unwanted yaw tendency, even if you use differential braking to correct the yaw tendency, this might be useless in this case, as the anti-skid system still provide braking order to the wrong wheel, or will release the brake pressure to the wrong wheel and allow the skidding wheel to be still exist in the skidding case. Okay, everybody? So what is the main solution in that case? To apply the loss of braking memory item and put the anti-skid and nose wheel steering switch off to disconnect the anti-skid. Okay, everybody, this is the main solution for that case. So in the majority of the reported cases, cross connection were evidenced further to tire abnormal wear, flat spot. So you as a pilot or maintenance engineer, if you find a very bad flat spot or tire burst, suspect a cross connection at the level of maintenance, at the level of tachometer, or at the level of servo valve. Okay, everybody? So again, in the majority of the reported cases, cross connection were evidence further to tire abnormal wear, flat spots, or burst, and did not lead to serious incident. However, in a few cases, these cross connection lead to runway excursion. Okay, this is why it's important to keep in mind existing measure. Okay, so if the maintenance people do the problem of a cross connection at the level of tachometer or at the level of servo valve, the braking performance will not be impacted as long as the anti-skid function is not activated. So you, in that case, as a pilot, must switch off the anti-skid function. If the anti-skid function is still activated, the BSCU will release the brake pressure on the opposite wheel while maintaining the brake pressure on the already skidding wheel. And the braking performance will then be significantly affected. I need to tell you, anti-skid and nose wheel steering switch. If you put this switch off, what you will lose? Anti-skid, nose wheel steering, normal brake, and auto brake. Again, if you put the switch of anti-skid and nose wheel steering switch off, you will lose anti-skid, nose wheel steering, normal brake, and auto brake. Let's summarize. Anti-skid and nose wheel steering switch is the power supply switch for the BSCU. So this one off, no BSCU. So no anti-skid computation, no steering computation, no auto brake computation, and no normal brake. Okay, everybody? So you as a pilot, if you suffer from an unwanted yaw tendency or bad deceleration, a problem in the brake system, you need to apply as soon as possible the loss of braking memory item, which tell you to put the anti-skid and nose wheel steering switch to off. Let's jump to that. As you can see here, this is the emergency procedure, loss of braking. If auto brake is selected, brake pedals, press. Why you press the brake pedal? To go from auto brake to manual brake. Then, if no braking available or bad braking scenario, unwanted yaw tendency, or a bad deceleration, you need to put reverse max, brake pedal release, and anti-skid and nose wheel steering switch off. This is the most important in our scenario. Anti-skid and nose wheel steering switch off. Anti-skid and nose wheel steering switch off again, and again. In that case, you will solve the problem, because you will disconnect the BSCU, disconnect the electrical braking, okay? And in that case, you will prevent the unwanted yaw tendency, and again having the alternate brake without anti-skid to stop the aircraft. Okay, everybody? So let's continue the procedure or abnormal procedure for loss of braking. Brake pedals, then press, and you need to take care maximum brake pressure of 1000 psi. This is on the classic A320. On the enhanced and the neo, thanks to the alternate brake control unit that will prevent the brake pressure to move more than 1000 psi. If still no braking, parking brake short and the successive application. What we need to take care from here, anti-skid and nose wheel steering switch off, is the main procedure and the main point to solve the problem of a cross connection that may arise from the maintenance people do mistake at the level of tachometer or at the level of servo valve. So let's go back. So as you can see here, maintenance manual now is having a task. This is number of the task that's specifically designed to detect the cross connection. So you as a maintenance engineer or as a pilot, if you found a very bad flat spot or a burst tire, suspect a cross connection, and the maintenance people must do this task. Indicating a specific note that you must do this test if there is a risk of wiring cross connection between two tachometer after you replace of main landing gear, or if the electrical harness of the main landing gear changed. Electrical harness of the main landing gear changed. Okay, everybody? Okay. So, for my fellow pilots, operation-wise, should there be cross connection and an anti-skid function activation during the landing roll, the crew will perceive two things: a yaw tendency and an unusually small deceleration. This is the symptoms of the cross connection problem. Yaw tendency and unusually small deceleration. In that case, as soon as possible, immediately, you need to apply the loss of braking memory item. So while controlling the lateral trajectory, if the aircraft deceleration rate is perceived as significantly below expectation, the crew must apply the loss of braking memory item procedure shown on figure number 5. This is the loss of braking memory item procedure, which recall mainly to anti-skid and nose wheel steering switch off. Anti-skid and nose wheel steering switch off. Okay. So the procedure calls for the anti-skid function to be turned off to solve the problem of the cross connection, thereby eliminating the major consequence of the cross connection. And it is worth mentioning that in these circumstances, it might be appropriate for the flight crew to maintain full reverse thrust below the standard operating procedure minimum recommended speed for full reverse use. Full reverse in that case will help you so much to stop the aircraft. The standard operating procedure for landing will be updated accordingly at the next general revision to indicate that in case of emergency, maximum reverse thrust might be used until a complete stop. Okay, everybody? Again, if you do the procedure for emergency stop, you need to put maximum reverse thrust might be used until a complete stop. Okay, everybody? Okay, very good. So let's jump for the maintenance documentation improvements. Now the task 324200702002 has been amended to include the monitoring of the brake wear bin and the brake unit deflection, in addition to the previous monitoring of the brake piston movement as additional mean to determine proper brake operation. Okay, everybody, this task is now also required further to the installation of servo valve. Future improvements now on the troubleshooting manual, there will be an entry point if you found the tire flat spot to look for possible cross connection. And now there is a cable color coding to help for the maintenance people to connect the wire properly at the level of tachometer or at the level of servo valve. Okay, everybody? Okay. So as a conclusion, everybody, for this session on the brake system cross connection problem, you need to know that crossed cable in the braking system have in the past caused incident. It is therefore important to comply strictly with the published maintenance procedure. Pilots facing a situation where the airplane yaw to one side and the aircraft deceleration rate is perceived as significantly below normal may suspect brake cross connection, and he should apply the loss of braking memory item, which call for the anti-skid function to be turned off. Okay, everybody, thank you always for your good listening, and always remember this training session is only unofficial training, and you shall not use it for main maintenance and aircraft operation. Always consult your formal manuals, like flight crew operating manual, aircraft maintenance manual, and troubleshooting manual. These sessions are meant to performance added value. I need to increase your performance as a maintenance engineer or as a pilot. Okay, it is not used for official training. This was part 2 for brake system cross connection. I hope you learn the problem and learn the mitigation. Thanks for Airbus Safety First magazine produced by Airbus. Please stay tuned for an upcoming sessions like this. From Cairo, Egypt, your host was Haitham Ali, and I'm an aviation technical instructor. Thank you and goodbye.